When I realized I had the microphone, I sure was, my first thought was, oh, I hope that wasn't on while I was singing. It wouldn't have sounded very good. I stand before you today. I'm going to preach a topic. I wanted to talk about discouragement, depression, hard times, and kind of as Mike toned it, I really don't want it to be a negative lesson, not at all. In fact, really, to be an encouragement to you is my goal. And I got to tell you, my target audience was our junior high age kids. We have some. Really glad they're here tonight. And I was thinking, as I was at home kind of looking over this, I was really thinking about Fannin and Mia and the girls. And then I realized, well, they're at camp. They're not even going to be here tonight. But really about that age and above, it was really who I really wanted to target some of these thoughts are. And really because I wanted to tell them that I want to encourage them to put one of these days to put on Christ. But I also want to tell them, and I want to show them, and I want to emphasize to them that, man, there's going to be some hard times. And there's going to be some hard times whether you're a Christian or whether you do something else. There's going to be some hard times. And just want to help you mentally prepare for that. And that's really my intent this evening. As we start, I'll be in Hebrews chapter 1 here in just a moment. If you have a New Testament you would like to turn over there with me, that's kind of going to be a launching off point here in just a moment. One other thing I did want to say as we get started, I want to say thank you for being here. I like what we do on Wednesday nights during June and July. Give men in the congregation an opportunity to preach and teach and grab a Bible and grab a notepad and go to work and present some thoughts together and organize some thoughts and present a lesson. However, I got to tell you, like in a lot of things, you've had people come up and tell you, I've got good news and I got bad news. Which one you want to hear first? Well, give me the good news. Well, the good news is these summer lessons, we've been done in about 25, 30 minutes. About 7:30, we're kind of done. And, I got to turn off the lights about 7:45 just to get people to go home, and we stick around. Well, the bad news is I'm teaching tonight, and so it's not going to be that way. It's kind of like us going to listen to Tyler Sams last night. You know how Tyler can be. He's going to let you know how much he studied by giving you all of it, So anyway, the good news and bad news. And that's really the backbone of my lesson. I didn't bring it up just to make a funny point. It was really, that's kind of how it works. There's good news and there's bad news. But, the one thing that's a common denominator here, the good news is the gospel. The gospel's good news. So the good news is the good news, the gospel. And so that's where we'll be. And I told you we'll be in Hebrews chapter 12, and I'm going to pull a Jeff O'Rear on you because I'm going to start somewhere else. And that is, this is one of my favorite verses, so I've just put it up on the screen. I think about this verse all the time. In fact, Jeff calls me out in the middle of class sometimes, and he'll bring this verse up to me. I have come so that you may have life, and that you may have it more abundantly. Now, I think often in the realm of baseball. I'm a baseball guy. It's not my first love, but there's so many life lessons in it. I think in the world, in the realm of sports, probably the greatest event in all of sports might be when a person can hit a home run and the game stops while they slowly trot around the bases and get all the accolades. Maybe the single greatest event in sports might be a home run. And so I use that as the analogy, but I really believe as a Christian, you're given the opportunity not for a hard life, you're given the opportunity for the best life. In this life, not only in the life to come, although that's a lot, and that's worth everything. Was it D. Bowman or one of the preachers that has a reputation of saying, hey, if you've missed heaven, you've missed all there is. And there's no greater truth has ever been presented than that. But I want you not to only have heaven, I want to encourage you to have a life here that's awesome. I want to encourage you to have a life here. Before you depart this life, you can be like Paul when he said, I've finished the race and I've kept the faith. You know, do you think Paul at the end of his life regretted it? I mean, he was shipwrecked. You know, we could read the verses about the story of Paul and the numbers of things that were bad that happened to him. I would think, and I don't know, but I'm pretty confident when I say, Paul, do you regret doing it? And I'm sure the message was absolutely not. It was worth every penny of it. And that's why the message I want to send to our young people. At the end of your life, when this life here is over, you to be able to say, I don't regret it. I don't regret being a Christian. I don't regret making it the top priority in my whole life. That was the smartest move, best move I ever made when I was 12, 13, 16, 18, 20, 30, or 70 years old. You know, I baptized, a lot of y'all were here the night, or I guess it was night when I baptized my mom. I think at the time she was 80, you know. And so wherever you are on this thing, I have come, Jesus says, I've come so that you can have life. And not only that you can have life, you can have it more abundantly. I'm a big fan of, we as Christians have the opportunity to live the best life here. And I'm talking secularly. I'm talking about the world we live in. We have an opportunity to live it really good. And not only that, the best part is when it's over, how we get to look back at it. Because looking back at it is a good thing as well. I put this verse up, and I wanted you to know that, you know, that Jesus makes the point of this life, I've come, and that you may have it more abundantly. In Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1, where he says, let us run the race that's set before us. Let us lay aside every weight, the sin which so easily ensnares us, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us. You know, pick up the ball and run with it. Do something in this world. The people that struggle with discouragement and depression are the ones that sit there and let life happen to them. There's so many dynamic things about this life. There's so many good things that you're going to have an opportunity to be a part of. At the appropriate age, I'm thinking, you know, having children, or in the world I live in, it's those grandchildren. Having certain things, you know, there was a time that playing ball was the big deal to me. You know, that was, you know, top priority for me. I do regret that it was a time which it was more number one, and my faith was more number 16, somewhere else. It wasn't even number 2. I regret that. I wish I could stand before you and say, my faith was number 1, and I never wavered. And number 2 was ball, and number 3 was whatever it was. I want to encourage you to engage in the life here. But caution, this is my caution. My caution is this. Tracy ain't here to preach about, hey, if you become a Christian, you're going to be successful. You're going to be wealthy. I've already tried that. It didn't work. I prayed that prayer. God, if I make this free throw, I'm going to be at church every Sunday, whatever. Clink. There it goes. You know, if I hit this golf, whatever. We've played that mind game where if I'm good, I do this, then good things are going to happen to you. Hang on now. I'm not preaching that. I'm not telling you that. I'm not telling you you're going to win the ball game. That's life. That's life. You know, we say prayers before we play the game. I kind of like doing that as a coach, but it doesn't guarantee you're going to win. I think it was Lou Holtz I heard speak one time, and something to the effect of, well, Coach, what if the other team prays for them to win as well? Well, we can't control the other team. We just got to take care of us. You know, that's the way he put it. And I thought it was kind of tongue-in-cheek, but good. that it doesn't guarantee success. You're not guaranteed to make a lot of money. You're not guaranteed to win the games, to catch all the fish, to have whatever it is you desire. Those desires are not going to be fulfilled just because you become a Christian. I hate to break it to you, young people. That's the truth. It's not going to be any easier for you. But I do want to encourage you, live the life we have here. Find something and excel in it. I like this verse in Proverbs. Do you see a person skilled in his work? He will stand in the presence of kings. He will not stand in the presence of the unknown. I think it's an inspirational verse. I think it's an encouragement to be good at what you do. Put your whole self into it. If it's ball, let it go. Go play. But don't make it number one. And let me tell you, that's the key. That's an important part, is I'm going to be all in, but I'm not going to let it be my God. It's not going to become my idol. It's something I do. Football, baseball, softball. Softball's kind of in my kingdom, my world, my realm. Basketball, golf, tennis, swimming, motorcycles, fishing, hunting, music, art, drama, horses, photography, cooking, guns, martial arts, and I ran out of things to think. I just randomly thought all the things that you can do in this life that are fulfilling, that will put a smile on your face, that you enjoy. I'm in the realm, I still coach football. I've retired, but I've gone back, I'm still coaching. But it's a fun thing to embrace someone who's had success. Someone who just scores a touchdown, or some kid that caught the pass and they're not very good, and you just want to celebrate with them and you high five them. I can't imagine, pick on Sam Tyler, I can't imagine what it's like being on the bottom of a dog pile after a big baseball win. Everybody just floods the field and they just go crazy. Those things are good. And those things, I want to encourage you. Go and do. Enjoy this life. It is meant for you to be enjoyed. It is meant for you to excel, dominate. Drama, music, art, go and do it. Just don't make it your idol. Don't make it your God, for lack of a better term. Don't worship at it. Just go and excel and do it. The person that's most unhappy is the person that doesn't do anything. Idle hands are the devil's workshop. You've heard that expression before. Now, what I want to do, I want to tell you, as I mentioned earlier, the warning. I want to emphasize the warning. You're not guaranteed success. You're not guaranteed a single championship. You're not guaranteed so many things. But one thing that you have, there is something that you have, and you got to remember it. And the thing that you do have, in the end, you will win. I'm a competitive guy. I know I'm not very competitive when I play Glenn in golf. He just tears me up, so I just try to stay in the middle of the fairway, do the best I can. But there's times I'm very competitive in the arena. You want to excel. You want to do good. You don't want to crumble. You don't want to be weak. But one thing is really assuring. In the arena I'm in, you're not guaranteed to win anything. You got to compete for the spot just to have a chance. But as a Christian, when you put on Christ, in the end, when the dust is settled, you're the winner. You're the one that is allowed, welcome thy good and faithful servant. You're the one that's welcome to heaven. You've won here at least something. If you've picked up a ball or done something, right? Draw, paint, play music, and excelled in something. You've had some degree of success here, but here you have the ultimate success, the ultimate trophy. Last night, Tyler talked about the trophies and how they rust, and they're valuable for a day or two, and they're not for eternity. I want you to have the trophy that, yes, it rusts in a day or two, but I want you to have the eternity. And so that's my message to the young people. But let me tell you, the warning is you're not going to win every battle. In fact, there's going to be some hard things come your way. There's going to be some curveballs. There's going to be time when you got cut from the team. There's going to be a time you embarrassed yourself in front of everybody. There's going to be a time you're not going to excel. In fact, you're going to fail. It's not going to go well. And you're going to be embarrassed. And you're going to feel like, well, I'm a loser. I might as well give up. Why try? And I want to tell you, don't do that. Don't do that in your faith. If you do it here when you're in the band, you're going to do it in other avenues. And one day, in the most important arena of all, you might be that person. And don't plant that seed. I don't want you to be that person. I've known, you've known people who've sat in some of these pews here, and they no longer sit here. They fall by the wayside. So I just want to encourage you that tough times are coming. Now I want to do this quickly. I'll hit them quickly. David in Psalms 13. I just want to hear, I want you to experience, the way I would like to word it is, I want you to hear his voice. But it's hard to hear a voice when you're reading. But my point is, I want you to experience the lowness, how tough it got for David in Psalms 13. Just a few verses here. How long, O Lord, will you forget me? Forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long shall I take counsel in my soul, having sorrow in my heart daily? How long will my enemy be exalted over me? Consider and hear me, O Lord, my God. Enlighten my eyes, lest I sleep the sleep of death. Lest my enemy say, I have prevailed against him, lest those who trouble me rejoice when I am moved. But I've trusted in your mercy. My heart shall rejoice in your salvation. I will sing to the Lord. You can hear the positive coming back in him. But David he's the man after God's own heart. And he accomplished so much, a kingdom and so much. But his defeats were crushing, were very difficult. Psalm 69, a little more on David, and I'll try to hit these very quickly. Just a verse or two at the beginning. Save me, O God, for the waters have come up to my neck. I sink in deep mire. When there is no standing, I have come into deep waters where the floods overflow me. I'm weary with my crying. My throat is dry. My eyes fail while I wait for my God. There's been despair. And let me tell you, I'll bet some of you, more than others, but some of us, we've been there. We've been desperate. We've had our head in our hand thinking, God, what am I going to do? How about Elijah? Elijah is talked about in 1 Kings. Let's see, let me kind of get back to my notes here. Elijah is a prophet to Israel. He was this caught my attention because I had forgotten about it, or at least I wasn't thinking about it. When I read it, I said, oh yeah, it was an oh yes moment. He was one of those on Mount Transfiguration. And Elijah was a prophet to the king Ahab and Queen Jezebel. And Jezebel had killed all the priests. At least Elijah thought he had. And Elijah at one point says, and I am the only one left. He thought everybody else was dead, and Jezebel was after him to kill him. And the story goes, he encourages the people to follow Baal or follow him. And if you remember the story, the fire just consumes everybody. But Elijah was such a great prophet and a great man. Even though he was so discouraged and went through some really hard times, he never died. He's one of the few people that never experienced death. How about this one? Jonah. Jonah chapter 4 and verse 3. Now, I don't think we even have to go there, but you remember Jonah, how miserable he was. Jonah is kind of one of my favorite stories. I really like the story because he was so hard-headed. I'm going to do what I'm going to do, you know. And I know that is not any of you. You're not hard-headed. I have experienced hard-headedness, all right, when I look in the mirror. And it's me. I'm the hard-headed one sometimes. I'm Jonah. I can see myself in Jonah. I can't see myself being swallowed by a whale, but I can see myself saying, well, I'm supposed to do this, but I think I'm going to head over here, you know. And then he just was miserable. The misery of Jonah is there in chapter 4, verse 3. Just for make my points. I got a lot of these, so I just want to kind of hit them quick. How about, do you remember the story of Job? Probably not a better story about discouragement and depression. You know, Job, I loathe my very life, he said. I can't imagine what Job went through. The losses he felt. Job, and then if you read the end of the book, all of it that got back in multiple folds. That he regained it all and plus much more. Then Jeremiah, the weeping prophet, Jeremiah, whose comment was, cursed be the day I was born. And he's a prophet of God who says, cursed be the day I was born. And how about Jesus? Jesus, when he wept, the sweat were like drops of blood. The stress that Jesus was under, all of mankind hung on his shoulders. Imagine the pressure he felt on those few days and moments and hours prior to his death, the stress as a man, as a human being. I mentioned Elijah earlier. One of his comments, I just want to quote him. How long will you waver? If the Lord is God, allow him. But if Baal, follow him. He regains, and he really showed the people and the leaders of Israel. Jeremiah 31:31. I would like to turn to this one. Jeremiah. Verse 31, where it says, behold, the days are coming, says the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. Now, when you look at that verse often, slide down to verse 34. No more shall every man teach his neighbor and every man his brother, saying, know the Lord, for they all shall know me, from the least of them to the greatest of them. I put this here because there is a promise that goes way back that everyone will know the Father. Everyone will know God. There's going to be a new covenant. And it's going to be a great covenant. It's going to be a good thing. And then this is my absolute, John 10:10 is one of my favorite verses. This is my favorite verse because it is a good outline of you and your faith. As a Christian, I think of this verse often. This is truly my favorite verse in the whole, there, it's not up there. There it is. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but one of power, love, and sound judgment. 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7. God has not given us a spirit of fear. In other words, the point here is don't be afraid. There's going to be times, the most stressful things that you're going to encounter often, not all the time, but often are molehills. I had a college professor one time. Went blank on his name. But one of his favorite comments, and I still remember him saying it, he said, don't sweat the small stuff. And you know what? It's all small stuff. And his point was, this was an education class, this class is important, but it's not cancer. It's not somebody at home. It's, that's really sick. It's not this is important, but on the grand scale of things, don't lose your sight of perspective. And I think that's a good thing. So as a young person, one of these days when you decide you want to put on Christ, and that's an important thing, and you want to make that number one with you, you have power. You have unbelievable power. And you have the ability, don't be afraid. What are they going to do to you? What's the worst thing that happen? You lose the game? Really? I have been stressed and lose sleep over a lot of stuff. When I decided to talk about this, my work changed. And I thought, I kind of need this lesson for myself because I got to teach a class I didn't want to teach. My assignment kind of changed, and I wasn't too thrilled about it. And that's kind of how school business works sometimes. But it was my point of, well, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? I mean, what is the worst thing? They're going to fire me? Okay, I'll get another job. I'll be okay. What is the worst? Do not fear. Fear can be, as a Christian, you have the ability to eliminate so much of the fear. How about this? Power. You have amazing ability as a young person. Your strength is unbelievable. And you have so much of it ahead of you to develop. As a young person, you have a huge advantage over us old people because you got the opportunity to prepare and do. Our time is limited. And the choices we've made, we've already made most of them. You're about to make the biggest choices you're ever going to make in your whole life. And what's going to regulate you on those choices? You have enormous power. Your youth is your advantage. You ought to use it. Take advantage of the fact that you're young. It is a great advantage you have. The third point it makes is about love. And love is the key to everything. What do you love? This was talked about last night over Soul Springs. Some people, they kind of have this attitude that they don't love anything. But that's not true. You can tell what people love because if they have any money, they're putting money in it. Or if they have any time, they're putting time in it. Whether it's a person, whether it's an object, whether it's a ball game, whether it's money or whatever. If you love something, you will invest in that. Guaranteed. How about, do you love the Lord? What do you invest in that? How important is your faith? Are you in a position to say, my faith is number one? I love football, and I'll talk football till 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm good with that. But first day of the week, at 9:30, I'm going to sit right there. And at 10:30, I'm going to be right there. And at 6 o'clock, I'm going to be right there. And it's my way, it's Tracy Blankenship's way, and I can only speak for me. It's my way of saying to myself, that's number one. Everything else we'll negotiate. I can make everything else go, best I can. But I will make that number one. And you young folks, I want to encourage you. If you will make that your priority and you put everything else, line up the rest of the things that you love up, you're going to benefit beyond measure. The benefits that's going to come your way are really, really big. The sound judgment, it just means be smart. You are intelligent. As a person, be smart. Don't make poor decisions. We had a coaching rule, and I've expressed it to my kids and the kids I teach, and that is, no good decisions are ever made after 9 o'clock at night. If it's after 9 o'clock at night, you don't need to make a decision about it. You can sleep on it and go till the morning. My point is, you're smart. Use your brain. God gave you an incredible brain and an ability that you can make some good decisions. Go make them. I ran across this poem. Well, let me back up before I say read you this poem. I have a note here, and I wrote this down. I wrote, without faith, there are no good real answers to discouragements, depression, and despair. A man or a woman of faith can deal with problems and setbacks, and you're better prepared to deal with it. Without faith, if you've not put your faith is number one, when bad things do come, and they're going to, bad things are going to happen. How are you going to deal with that? When you have faith, the opportunity to deal with the bad things will help you put it in perspective. How about a death in the family? How about when your mom or your dad dies, or your brother or sister, something bad happens in your family? You're in a position to deal with it. I was talking to Mary Harrell earlier. We were talking about just people, and you know how Christians are so good to help you. If you go to a city, you don't know anybody there, and you showed up at the church congregation, you have instant family that will say, what do you need? There are so many people like that within the church that just is mind-boggling. And so the point is, with what you have because of your faith, you can deal with all the others, and you can keep it in perspective. When you lose the game, go kick the car door, whatever you want to do, and be mad, and then realize it was the game. Well, it's a game. When I'm on the green and I putt it for the 5th time and it still didn't go in, just a ball. You know, it's just a game. I may throw my club into the pond. You know, I've gotten mad about stuff like that before, but it's just my perspective is different. And I want to tell you, young people, if your perspective is good, you can deal with those setbacks that hit you right in the face. And the rest of the world cannot. The rest of the world is going to have a hard time with that. And at any age, whether they're 8 or 88 years old, and hard times come, and they don't have any faith to back up what they want, nor an immediate family that will just jump in and help, man, that's tough. I feel sorry for them. I feel sorry for the world that is not people of faith. They have it tough. When they get down and discouraged, what do they go to? What Bible do they read? And what right do they have to ask God, God, please help me in this situation? What right do you have? Now then, I have this poem I found, and it's stuck with me. I got to read it because I'll miss 1 or 2 points. Before you pray, believe. Before you speak, listen. Before you spend, earn. Before you write, think. And before you die, live. And that's the one I want to leave you. Before you die, don't forget to live. I want you to be like Paul one of these days. When Paul says, I fought a good fight, I finished the race. Paul had a tough life. He had so many setbacks, it's unbelievable. But at the end of his time, and he knew it was the end, you can sense the pride of what he spoke, of what he did with the people that he did it with. I fought a good fight. I finished the race. And that's one of the most encouraging things that I think we can embrace as young Christians. So as a older Christian, talking especially to a younger audience, I want to encourage you. Figure out what's important to you and run with it. But I want to encourage you, make it be your faith, number one, and then do all that other stuff. And I can tell you, you're going to have life, and you're going to have it more abundantly. I've lived, I'm 60 years old, and one of the greatest things that I do have is the ability to look backwards and see the providence of God and how He's worked in my life. And how from the people I've met, from the jobs I've had, to the kids I've had, to everything has worked out well for me. In fact, I'm going to tell you, and this is Tracy Blankenship talking as selfish as I can be, nobody's got it better than me. I've got it better than every one of you guys. And I'm sorry that you're second fiddle, but I got it better than everybody. I do. I feel that way. And that's where I come across with, you can have life, and you can have it more abundantly. When you look back, and you're like Paul, you can look back and say, I'm glad I did what I did. And I'm glad it's worked out. I hate that I missed the 5 putts on the green, but everything else has really worked well for me. It's going to work well for you. I want to encourage you in that. But Make God your faith. That last line in that poem, before you die, live. That's why I want to leave you tonight. That's the last word I want to share with you as we go to our song, as we always do before we close the service, in case there's anybody that wants to put on Christ this hour, or anybody that has put on Christ and maybe they brought reproach upon the church, or maybe they just would ask for the prayers of the church. We'd be glad to help you. Whatever you need, won't you come forward tonight while we stand and sing the song that's been selected.